everybody, and welcome to Sammy Scrolls, where I tell you all about some of the best books out there. Before we start, I just want to say, sorry I'm a bit of a mess at the minute. Hair is everywhere and I'm all disheveled. It is boiling. I'm currently in the middle of summer in Australia, so it's very, very hot, which is also why I'm in the living room at the moment, not where I usually film, because it's just far too hot in the back of the house right now. I also have a new camera, which I'm hoping isn't on the wonk right now because I just put it on my tripod and it was too heavy and fell over. So if the camera starts slipping or I'm wonky or anything, please forgive me. There's not a lot I could do about it. It's just, it won't stay. I've got it balanced on a footstool at the moment on the tripod. It's a nightmare. Okay, so now we've got all that over with, let's get right into it. So the book that we're looking at this episode is The Help by Catherine Stockett. So this book is set in the 60s. I was a bit confused to begin with because there were references throughout it and I was like, hold on, where are we? But yeah, it's in the 60s in Mississippi. So that was quite exciting because as an Elvis fan, I know a little bit about Mississippi, and being in Elvis's home state was pretty neat. But this book is it's not true in that the people in it don't actually exist, but it's close enough to real life that it could exist, and the people in here, from what I understand after reading the acknowledgements at the end, are based on real life people. So while these characters and circumstances might not have existed exactly as presented in the book, pretty similar things happened. So if you're not familiar with American history, during the 60s there was the civil rights movement because there was still a lot of inequality between the races. I don't know what is currently the politically correct way to say things, so I'm just going to go with how it's presented in the book. We talk about black people and white people. So if that's offensive, my apologies, but all this PC culture makes it really difficult to talk about subjects when it's the subject that matters, not as much the labels that we give it, if that makes sense, no disrespect. But by the 60s, thank goodness we'd moved past slavery and all of that sort of nonsense, but we still had a lot of issues. Black people were still seen as lesser, and we had black shopping centres, white shopping centres, black toilets, white toilets. Black people didn't have the same rights that white people do. There were places where white people lived and places where black people lived, and you could not intermingle. And if white people needed food, they would often get their maids, which just happened to be black people, to go, and you were only allowed if you were a black person or a coloured person. I don't know, I'm so nervous to talk about it. I'm hoping I don't get yelled at. But if you were working for your white lady and she wanted you to go and do the shopping, you couldn't go to the black store because apparently the food there, can't touch it for white people. I don't know. You had to go to the white people's store, but you were only allowed in there if you were in your uniform. So it's just chaotic. And I have like some general knowledge of civil rights and inequality in the races in general, not just in America. But what I didn't realise, which seems kind of stupid now, is that like I thought that we were just being jerks and there was no actual foundation for the fear or the, I don't know, I guess a lot of white people detested black people, but I didn't think there was an actual foundation. I thought we were just idiots because it wouldn't be the first time that we've done things because we were naive. But in this book, they actually go into like why white people, the general public I suppose, of white people were so against the black community. It's weird that you have to call it a community, they're just people. We're all just people. This is a strange topic. But white people actually genuinely thought that black people had diseases, and so that's why they weren't allowed to go to the same places, because they were scared they'd catch the black diseases. What? And it becomes a thing that they actually talk about in the book, that if you are able to afford to have help, your house should have a separate bathroom for yourself and your family, your guests, and the help. Because your family should have its own privacy, your guests should feel comfortable knowing that they have their own bathroom, and you don't want to share the bathroom with a black person, so they should have their own. Because you might catch something off the toilet seat that a black person It's insane. Like, I don't know, I suppose maybe I'm ignorant because I didn't live during that time, and I don't know, I just find it weird. Like, I don't understand how people can look at another human and find something that makes them lesser than themselves. I don't get it. It's just super weird. But in The Help, it's really, really well written, which I can understand why it was turned into a movie, because you actually get a first-person view through different characters' eyes. So you have Skeeter, who is a young white lady that's 24, just like me, and she's starting to question things like, maybe this shouldn't be the normal way of life. Why are black people considered less than white? And why do I have black people come work in my house and I don't go work in theirs, and that sort of thing. So you have her, like, obviously she's well educated and she's highly thought of in society, and she's from a very well-to-do family and a good bloodline family. They still have all that where you have to marry in your class. Weird. Anyway, she's from this really good family, and she's starting to wonder why this sort of thing happens. And then you also have a point of view from Minnie, and I don't know how to say her name. I think it's Abilene. Please forgive me, I don't know. I haven't watched the movie, so oops. But Minnie and Abilene, we're just gonna go with that. They're actually black people, and they're maids for separate white families. And you see from their point of view what the black people are going through at this time. So they get up at the crack of dawn and they go and they look after their white family and the white babies and raise the kids, and the kids are confused because mum doesn't pay attention to them, but the maid does. So it's very confusing for the children, and then they come home and tend to their own families, and it's really heartbreaking because Minnie has children and she actually has to start teaching her kids to not be so independent or confident almost. Like, you can't say certain things about the white folk, that'll get you in trouble, and you have to keep your head down and yes ma'am, no ma'am around a white person, and do not say the wrong thing and all that sort of stuff. And it must have been awful as a parent to have to look at your child and say, look, because of the colour that God made us, we have to act this way. So it really does give a unique perspective on the civil rights movement and the things that were going on before and during, and it gives you a window to the people that have now put us in the after. And I know things aren't perfect, I'm not saying that we're completely equal. There's a lot that needs to happen on both sides for that to happen, but at least we're past this. There's no more coloured bathrooms and coloured supermarkets and all of that nonsense. And I mean, some of the violence, there is a small bit of violence in this book. It's nothing compared to what really happened. Like, it's still awful, but the things that happened in real life were this and worse. And thankfully, for the majority, people aren't being attacked as frequently because of the colour of their skin, so that's always good. Of course, there are exceptions to the rule, but it's not as bad as it was now, so I'm thankful for that. But definitely a book worth reading. It really does take you on a journey, and you completely fall in love with the characters and you feel for each one of them, and they're all super relatable. So whether you're black, white, or something in between, you can relate to these characters because they're real people dealing with insane situations, and it shows that we're all driven by the same things. We all want to be respected, we all want to be loved, and we all want to be cared about. That's what all the people in this book want, regardless of their class or colour or stature or whatever else. So definitely, if you can get your hands on a copy, I would highly recommend it. But that's about all I have to say on it. So if you'd like to suggest a book or chat about a book, I'd love to hear from you. I'm on Facebook and Twitter. Let me know what you think about this camera. Should I go back to the other one, or is this okay? If I'm sticking with this one, I'm so gonna have to get a new tripod. This thing is flimsy. But I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next episode, and hopefully it won't be so hot, so I'll look more like a decent human being. I'm looking sideways because I can see myself, and oh, it's not good. Sorry about that. But thank you so much for watching. Take care until I see you next time. Bye!